Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm currently out on a trip up here in the mountains, and I'm at a remote off-grid location. Luckily I've got a garage here to be inside, but it's pretty cold, and as soon as I got the Jeep off the trailer, it was leaking some kind of clear fluid, and it was pretty obvious that it was coolant. So I knew there was a little seepage going on. I noticed the last couple of days. I was hoping I'd be able to get through this trip, but the way it's looking right now is it's gotten worse. So I don't have a lot of options. There's a Napa about an hour away from me, and they were able to get a radiator ordered from the next town. They said they'll have it for me today, and I think that's probably my best option, unless I want to just scrap this trip altogether in terms of taking the Jeep out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling this radiator. Luckily I've got a few tools with me. It doesn't take much, just the basics, but yeah, let's do it. Oh my God, this is so hard to do when your hands are so cold that you can't feel them. I don't know how you guys do this in the cold weather. It's freezing in here. Can you see my breath? No, can't see it, but this is so hard to do when it's cold. I don't know how you guys do it in those cold regions. Right now I'm trying to drain all the coolant into a bucket, and I'm doing it through the drain, and it's taking forever. If I open the drain all the way, it's just gonna splash everywhere. Maybe I'm gonna try the lower radiator hose instead. I don't know if that's gonna be any better. Oh, you know what? Seems like I've got it draining through the drain plug right now, and it's not gushing out, but it's going at an okay pace. So I'm gonna let most of it go like that, and then obviously I got to pull the hose at some point. So just trying to prevent as much of a mess in here as I can. All right, so while the coolant's draining out the bottom, I'm going and disconnecting the fan shroud. There's four bolts go around the corners of those, the fan shroud, corner of that. The upper radiator hose is coming off, and then there's 6 bolts that attach the radiator itself. Not too hard to get to. There's 2 on the top, there's 2 in the middle, and then there's 2 down below. So I'm gonna work on that for right now. Oh, going the wrong way. Just get everything pretty much ready to pop right out as soon as this thing's done draining. I'm starting to feel my hands again. That's a good sign. It's supposed to snow, I don't know, today or tomorrow. I think tomorrow, so there's some good wheeling to be had out there. Be ashamed to tow this thing all the way up here for nothing. So for the actual radiator mounting bolts, only the upper 4, I guess, out of 6 need to come out. The top 2 go through just regular holes. Same with the middle set. The bottom 2, actually, the holes on the radiator are slotted, so you only need to back out the screws of the bolts, and then they act like posts that'll hold it in place. It won't fall down, so you can lift it out from there. So once the fan shroud is loose, it doesn't actually come out. Normally it's mounted up to the radiator like this. You just slide it back. You can like hang it on the fan, or just out of the way. You don't really need much space, just enough so that the radiator, once it's empty, will lift straight out. So you can see where it's leaking. I think it's coming from that seam right there where the plastic meets the aluminum. It looks like it's just seeping all the way around or along that edge. All right, just got back from Napa, picked up this radiator. I don't know what to expect with it, but long term at least, short term, I expect it to not leak. So it's a little bit warmer in here. Let's get this thing installed. One last bolt. This whole radiator should lift out of here. So can I get this thing by hand? There we go. All right, last bolt. Now it's just sitting on those 2 lower studs. Lift this thing out of here. Just make sure there's nothing I'm hitting. There we go. Set this thing aside. You can see right there where the plastic and the aluminum are crimped together. It looks like it's just been seeping out of that bottom edge right there. Okay. Protective foam. Let's take a look closer. All right, quality-wise, I can't really say this thing's good or bad. It just looks like a quote-unquote OEM replacement. Oh, look at that. I think there's a screw missing right there. They got them in all the other corners, so that's interesting. Yeah, way to go, China. We got some hardware. Those look like flared fittings that are, if you have an automatic transmission, which I don't, so back in the box. Wow, yeah, can't believe that. They got a screw missing. I don't think that'll be a problem for today, but yeah, definitely not what I like to see when you have to spend good money on a part. So they say the OEM is definitely the better way to go if we can find one. So I'll be looking for one, but in the meantime, this is a stopgap. All right, so installation, the reverse or removal. Those are my favorite words right there. If you've worked on stuff long enough, you've probably seen that somewhere in the directions. Bolts are tight, they're screwed down. So now we're just putting the hoses back on. And did the lower already. Upper's good. Here's a shot of those radiator bolts. I don't know if you can see that, but they're down there. All right, so all we have to do now is put the fan shroud back on. So fan shroud, coolant tank, fill this thing up, test it out. Oh my God, I'm so frustrated right now. The old Raider had nuts welded on to where that hole is right there for the fan shroud. You can see those nuts right there welded onto the back. This one has nothing, so it needs a nut on the back as well. I gotta see if I have some hardware. Hopefully, otherwise I'm still dead in the water. Oh man, I'm pretty strapped for nuts and bolts hardware up here. I don't have a lot to choose from. Let me see if I can make something work. Oh man, none of this stuff is the right size. I might have to get kind of creative. I mean, I'm lucky I've got a spot to work, but I just don't have, none of this stuff fits. It's kind of a smaller size than anything up here. I think these are 1/4 20, so I might have to zip tie this thing for now. Luckily, I got some zip ties. That's all I can think of. I mean, it doesn't take much to hold that thing on, but yeah, way to go, Napa. All right, there it is. Crude but effective. I don't know if you can see the one down there. And yeah, there's one right there. I don't know if you can see the one down there. Just got to put the tank back in and fill this thing up. All right, so it's time to fill this thing up. Quick tip, let me just show you something that'll save you some money. Well, first of all, this is the good stuff that I like to use. This is a Xerox G05 antifreeze. It meets all the requirements OEM spells out for these engines. It's highly recommended by people who do this stuff a lot. I'm sure you could use other stuff, but anyways, this is what I like to use. But check it out. Like most coolants, this stuff comes in 2 different versions. It comes in the normal full strength, and it also comes in a 50-50 pre-diluted mix. The full strength usually costs about $20. The 50-50 pre-diluted stuff usually costs about $20. And this is half water. So you could literally buy 1 gallon full strength stuff and mix it yourself with 1 gallon of distilled water. And you want to make sure you use distilled water because there's no minerals or other excess content in here that's bad for the system. So essentially you get 2 gallons for the price of 1, because distilled water is like $1 and the 50/50 stuff is like $20. I'm just gonna take half of this full strength and pour it into this empty bottle. So there we go. I got 2 quarts, full strength each bottle. Now we're just adding plain old distilled water from your local whatever store. And that's it. 2 gallons of coolant for about the price of 1. All right, so we're pretty much there. It's all topped off. Got a new radiator cap for it. I'm just gonna top off the coolant tank, start this thing up and see how we do. All right, so it's running. I don't see any coolant spilling out. That's a good sign.